The night was colder than anything Evan had felt in years. Snow covered the streets of the mixed colony world, and every breath he took came out like white smoke. He was a human single father, tired after a long day, carrying a small box of warm food for his daughter, waiting at home. Everything was silent until he heard a weak sound behind the cargo crates beside the alley. It was not the wind, not an animal, but a small trembling voice saying, "Sir, please, help." Evan turned quickly, confused, and stepped closer. The snow cracked under his boots as he moved the crate slightly to the side. That was when he saw them. Two alien children, both thin, both shaking, both almost blue from the deadly cold. The older one, maybe 7 or 8 years old, had glowing silver markings on her cheeks. She was trying to hide the smaller one under her arms, hugging her tightly as if her warmth alone could save the baby. The little girl whispered again, "Sir, please, my baby sister is freezing." Her voice broke halfway and her eyes looked desperate. Evan felt his heart stop for a moment because the baby in her arms was barely moving. Its tiny breaths were slow, weak, almost fading away. Evan looked around, hoping someone else had seen them, but people walking nearby did not even turn their heads. Some looked away on purpose. Some whispered to each other that the alien tribe was cursed. Some even crossed the street to avoid them. Evan could not understand it. They were only children, alone in the snow, dying. Yet everyone acted like they were nothing. He knelt in front of the older girl, his voice soft. "Where are your parents?" The girl shook her head slowly, tears freezing on her cheeks. "Gone. Soldiers took them. We ran. But baby Sori cannot walk in the cold anymore." Evan knew he had seconds to decide. If he helped the children, he could get in trouble. The colony had strict laws about sheltering undocumented aliens. Helping them could bring danger to his own daughter, Mira. But when the baby made a tiny sound, like a final weak whimper, Evan felt something inside him change, without thinking any more. He removed his thick winter coat and wrapped both alien children inside it. The older girl gasped in shock because the warmth felt unreal after the freezing alley. Evan lifted the baby gently and checked her fingers, which were turning dark from the cold. He whispered, "Stay with me, little one. Don't give up." Just when he stood up, a bright red light flashed on the wall next to him. Evan froze. A patrol drone hovered above the alley, scanning for life signatures. A mechanical voice echoed, "Illegal alien miners detected. Stand by for enforcement." The older alien girl's hands tightened on Evan's coat. Her eyes widened with fear. "Please, sir. Don't let them take us," she whispered, her voice shaking hard. Evan had a choice. He could hand them over and walk away safe, or he could run while holding a half-frozen baby and another terrified child. For a moment he saw his daughter's face in his mind. He thought of how he would feel if she were alone in the snow and nobody helped her. He turned away from the drone, pulled the coat tighter around the children, and whispered firmly, "Quiet now. I won't let them take you." The drone scanned again, and Evan slowly stepped deeper into the shadows of the alley. The drone's light moved left and right, but somehow did not catch him before disappearing toward the main street. Evan breathed out slowly, shaking from the close call. The older girl was crying silently, her tears falling on his coat. But she held the baby even closer, as if her arms alone were keeping the baby alive. Evan carried them both out of the alley and started walking fast toward his home. The streets were empty, the wind stronger now. He looked at the baby repeatedly, making sure she was still breathing under the coat. He whispered again and again, "Just hold on. You're safe with me." The older girl finally spoke weakly, "Sir, thank you." "Please save Sori." Evan nodded, determined, "I will." He did not know who these children were. He did not know why drones were searching for them. He did not know what danger he was bringing to his home, but he did know one thing with complete certainty. If he did nothing, they would die tonight. So he kept walking, holding the alien baby close to his chest, carrying the older sister beside him, disappearing into the snowy night, with a decision that would change all of their futures forever. Evan reached the small metal door of his home with numb hands. Snow covered his shoulders. And the two alien children inside his coat were shaking harder now. The baby's breathing was shallow, the kind that made Evan scared every second. He pushed the door open, and warm air rushed out, touching their frozen faces. Inside, the lights were low, and the heater hummed softly. "Come in," Evan whispered, though the older girl was barely standing. He guided her inside and shut the door quickly so the cold would not follow. Mira, his human daughter, peeked from the hallway with sleepy eyes. She rubbed them and frowned, confused. "Dad." "Who's that?" Evan gently placed the baby on the warm table and removed the coat. The baby's skin was pale purple, and her small fingers were stiff. Myra's eyes widened with fear. "Dad, is she alive?" "Barely," Evan answered, voice tight. "Bring me the heating pod." Mira ran without hesitation and returned with a round metal pod that glowed faint orange. Evan opened it and placed the baby inside. Adjusting the warmth, he whispered, "Stay with us." "Little one." The older alien girl stepped forward, her voice weak but full of hope. "Her name is Sori. She is my sister. Please save her." Evan nodded and wrapped a blanket around the older child's shoulders. "What's your name?" he asked, speaking gently. "Leary," she whispered. "I am Leary." Myra looked at the girl and then back at Evan. "Dad." "Where did you find them?" Evan told her everything quickly, and Mira's expression changed from fear to anger. "People walk past them outside," she said, her voice shaking. "How can they walk past children who are freezing?" Evan did not have an answer. He only said, "We're helping them now. That's what matters." The heating pod beeped softly as Sori's tiny fingers twitched. Leary gasped and covered her mouth, tears of relief falling down. She moved, she cried, she moved. Evan checked her breathing again and felt a little hope. Mira whispered, "She's going to make it." "I know she will." But the sense of calm did not last long. A deep electronic hum came from outside. The house scanner near the window flashed red for a second. Leary froze in fear, whispering, "They are still searching. They won't stop." Evan moved to the window and peeked outside. Two patrol drones hovered slowly past the street. Shining bright blue scanning lights, one drone paused near his house, and Evan's heartbeat doubled. Mira whispered, "Dad. They can detect life signs, right?" "Yes," he whispered back. "They can." Evan shut off the internal beacon that transmitted his home's energy signature. Then he dimmed the lights until the house was almost dark. "Everyone stay quiet," he said softly. "Don't move. Don't breathe too loud." Leary grabbed Sori's pod and held it close to her chest. As if afraid someone would snatch it away, the drone outside scanned again, its beam passing across the door. For a moment, the lights flickered. And Evan's fear grew heavier. He whispered, "Please." Just passed by, after long seconds that felt like hours, the drone finally drifted away down the street. Only then did Evan breathe again. Mira let out a shaky sigh that was too close. Leary sat on the floor holding the heating pod, whispering comforting words to Sori. Evan knelt beside her. "Leary, why are they searching for you?" Leary looked down, her hands trembling. She tried to speak, but stopped. As if the truth was too heavy, finally she whispered, "They want Sori. They want her because she is special." Myra asked softly. "Special how?" Leary swallowed hard. "Our mother. She was a scientist. She said Sori carries something important inside her. Something people want." Evan frowned. "Important like what?" Leary wiped her tears. "I don't know. She never told me. She only said to run and never let anyone take Sori." Evan understood that helping them was more dangerous than he thought. He had brought 2 hunted children into his home. He had put Mira at risk. But when he looked at Leary hugging her baby sister, he knew there was no going back. Mira sat beside Leary and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You're safe here," she said. "My dad won't let anything happen to you." Leary looked at Mira with wide, grateful eyes. No one had ever said those words to her before. She whispered, "Thank you. Thank you so much." But outside, the drones continued their slow patrol. Their lights flashed against the windows like silent warnings. Evan watched them and felt a cold truth settle inside him. He had saved the children for tonight, but tomorrow, the real danger would begin. The house was quiet now, but it was not a peaceful quiet. It was the kind of silence where everyone listened for danger in every small sound. Evan sat near the window, watching the patrol drones drift through the cold night. Mira sat beside Leary, who refused to let go of the heating pod where baby Sori was slowly gaining warmth. The pod glowed gently, its soft pulse matching Sori's tiny breaths. Leary kept her hand on the pod as if the moment she let go, her baby sister would disappear again into the cold. Mira asked softly, "Leary, were you out there alone for long?" Leary nodded, her voice trembling. "We hid for 2 days. We had no food, no heat. I tried to keep Sori warm, but she is too small." Evan turned from the window, the heaviness in Leary's voice pulling him in. He sat across from her and spoke gently. "Leary, I need to understand what happened to you. Why are those drones searching for you?" Leary swallowed hard, her small hands tightening around the pod. "Our mother was a scientist," she whispered. "A very important scientist in our tribe. She studied life energy. The spark inside every creature." Evan and Mira exchanged a quick look of confusion. Leary continued, her voice shaking as she remembered one night. "Soldiers came to our home. They said our mother was hiding something from the council. They wanted Sori." Mira frowned deeply. Why would they want a baby? Leary looked down at her sister through the clear pod lid. "My mother said Sori was born with a rare spark, a special one. Something that appears only once every many generations. This spark means she can heal, she can guide, she can lead." Evan realized what she meant. "You mean? Your sister is important to your whole species." Leary nodded weakly, her eyes filling with tears again when they found out. "They wanted to take her away. They said the council needed Sori to control her, to raise her as their tool." Myra's hands curled into fists, anger rising inside her. "They wanted to use a baby," she said under her breath. "That's evil." Leary nodded again, voice barely stable. "My mother fought the soldiers. She told me to run with Sori. She said she would find us later." But then her voice cracked as she whispered, "She never came." Evan felt a sharp pain in his chest. The fear, the loss, the cold. The desperation. Leary had lived all of it while trying to protect a baby not even a year old. He spoke softly, "Leary, Tay, you did something very brave." But Leary shook her head. "No, I almost failed. Sori almost died tonight. Maybe Mother should have chosen someone stronger." Her voice broke completely, and she pressed her forehead against the heating pod, crying silently. Mira quickly wrapped an arm around her. "No," Mira whispered. "You did everything. Everything a big sister could do. You didn't fail. You saved her life until my dad found you." Leary leaned into Myra, still crying, still shaking. Her tears hit the warm pod and rolled off like tiny crystals. Evan stood up again and checked the streets from the window. The drones were moving slower now. Scanning deeper, something felt different. Something felt wrong. Leary noticed his tense posture. She wiped her tears and whispered, "They are getting closer."
Aren't they?
Evan nodded slowly. "Yes. They are scanning every house in the neighborhood," Mira whispered. "Dad, what are we going to do if they knock?" Evan didn't answer right away. He walked toward the small storage cabinet and pulled out emergency blankets and blackout sheets. "We prepare," he said quietly, "and we keep you all hidden." He covered the windows, blocking all light. The house became darker and quieter. Every small sound felt louder, sharper, more dangerous. Leary watched him with wide eyes. You are helping us even when you know you could be punished. Evan looked back at her, his voice steady. You are children. I won't let anyone take you. For a moment, Leary stared at him as if she could not believe such kindness existed. No human had ever risked anything for her before. Her voice softened. You remind me of my mother. She said some humans are good. She said they protect. Myra smiled a little. My dad always protects, but before anyone could feel safer. The scanner above the door flashed red again. This time brighter, louder, sharper. Evan hurried to the door. Heart pounding. He could see shadows moving outside, footsteps crunching in the snow. Someone was right outside the house. Someone was scanning for life signs. Leary hugged the pod tightly, whispering to Sori, please stay quiet. Please stay safe. Evan motioned everyone toward the small basement door. They moved silently, Leary holding the baby pod, Mira supporting her. Evan whispered, go. Go now. Just as he closed the basement door behind them, a loud knock shook the house. A voice echoed outside, cold and sharp. Open up. We know someone inside is hiding illegal alien miners. Evan took a deep breath in the darkness. The real danger had finally arrived. The knocking grew louder. Echoing through the small house like thunder, Evan stood completely still in the dark hallway, every muscle in his body tight. He could hear Leary breathing fast behind the basement door, Myra holding her hand, both girls terrified. The heating pod hummed softly. The only sign of life beside their shaking breaths. The voice outside came again, sharper this time. Open the door, human. We detected life signatures inside that do not match your family registry. Evan's heart pounded. But he forced his voice to stay calm as he called out, one moment, the door is stuck. He needed time. Even seconds mattered. He moved quietly toward the front door, but did not open it. Instead, he pressed his ear to the metal surface. Listening to the soldiers outside, he heard two of them shifting their boots in the snow. Another checking a handheld scanner. The scanner beeped faintly, and one soldier muttered, there are more signatures inside than the registry shows. Evan felt cold sweat form on his neck. They knew someone else was here. If they forced their way in, everything would be over. Leary, Sori. Myra in danger. He needed to distract them. He knocked on the inner side of the door and said louder, I'm coming. Stop banging on it. You'll break the hinges. He hoped sounding annoyed would make them relax, but it did not. One soldier replied coldly, open it now, or we force entry. Evan stepped away from the door and quickly grabbed a toolbox from under the shelf. He rattled the tools loudly, pretending to fix something. At the same time, he whispered toward the basement, stay quiet. Do not make a sound. Downstairs, Leary clutched the pod tighter. Shaking so hard, Mira wrapped both arms around her. It's all right, Mira whispered, though her own voice trembled. My dad always finds a way, but Leary didn't look convinced. She whispered back, they won't stop until they find Sori. She is too important. They need her. The soldiers outside started talking again. Why is it taking him so long? One asked. Scan again, the other replied. The reading flickered earlier. Maybe the children are hiding deeper inside, hiding deeper. Evan knew they were seconds away from discovering the basement door. He had to make a decision before they broke inside. He moved back to the door and whispered to himself, stall them. Buy time. Protect the children. Then he unlocked the first metal latch loudly on purpose. The soldiers froze for a moment, expecting the door to open. Evan slowed his movements, dragging out every second. He opened the second latch, then paused, delaying as much as he dared, but the handheld scanner outside beeped violently. One soldier barked. There are definitely two unregistered miners inside. Open the door now. Evan could feel his heartbeat in his throat. He had seconds left, maybe less. He finally cracked the door open just an inch. A narrow strip of cold air rushed inside, but Evan kept his body pressed against the opening so they could not see past him. "What do you want?" he asked, voice firm but controlled. Two armored soldiers stood outside, their visors glowing red in the dark. Behind them hovered a drone, scanning again and again toward the house. "We're searching for two alien children," the first soldier said. "Females, very young." Evan forced a confused expression. "I haven't seen any children except my own." "Look around. The streets are full of people. Why come here?" The soldier lifted the scanner. "This device says otherwise. It detected signatures matching small bodies inside your house." Evan shrugged slowly. "That's my daughter. She walks around at night sometimes." The soldier narrowed his eyes. "We detected 3 signatures. Your registry shows only 2 residents." Evan felt a sharp pain in his chest. They were too close, too smart, too determined. But before he could answer, a sudden gust of icy wind blasted through the street. The drone flickered, its screen glitching. The scanner beeped wildly as if confused. Snow blew across the sensors, disrupting the readings. Evan understood it instantly. The blizzard was helping him. For the first time tonight, the storm was on his side. He used the moment, stepping out halfway through the door, blocking the entrance with his body. "If your scanner is confused," Evan said calmly, "then maybe you're scanning the wrong house. I told you. No one else is here." The drone tried to stabilize its signal, but failed. A soldier slapped the side of his scanner in frustration. "This storm is messing with the readings," he growled. "Let's move to the next house." The other soldier hesitated. "The council will ask why we skipped a flagged location. Then tell them the storm corrupted the scan." The first replied, "That's the truth anyway." After another tense moment, both soldiers stepped back. The drone followed, drifting slowly down the snowy road. Evan closed the door gently but quickly. Locking all latches again, his legs felt weak with relief. He leaned his head against the door and breathed out. It felt like he had held his breath for hours. Down in the basement, Mira and Leary heard the footsteps fade. Mira whispered, "Are they gone?" Leary didn't speak, too afraid to hope. Then the basement door opened slowly, and Evan stepped down. His voice was low but warm. "They're gone. For now." Leary broke into tears again, hugging the pod with shaking arms. Evan knelt beside her and said softly, "We need a plan. They will return. And next time the storm won't hide us." Suspense hung heavy between all of them. Tonight they survived, but the hunt was far from over. The house felt smaller now, too small for the danger gathering outside. Evan stood in the narrow basement, staring at Leary, Mira, and the heating pod that held baby Sori. His breathing was steady. But his mind raced with fear and decisions he could not delay anymore. "We cannot stay here," he finally whispered. "They will search again. And next time, they will break the door." Mira swallowed hard and nodded, though her hands shook. Leary hugged the heating pod closer. Whispering to her baby sister inside, Sori made a faint sound, so small that it almost did not exist. But to Leary, it was the most important sound in the world. Evan pulled out a small backpack from a shelf. He began packing it with heating capsules, emergency blankets, and food bars. "We leave now," he said, "before sunrise." Before the drones recharge, the basement light flickered as the storm outside grew louder. Mira whispered, "Dad?" "Where will we go?" "To the human shelter in the mountains." Evan said, "It is abandoned, but safe." Leary looked up, fear mixing with desperate hope. "Will they follow us there?" "Yes." Evan answered honestly, "But it will be harder for them. And we will have time to think." He opened the basement door carefully and listened. No footsteps, no voices, only the wind roaring outside. "Follow me," he whispered. "Stay close." Myra held Leary's free hand, and they climbed up into the dark house. Evan checked the window one last time. The streetlights flickered, covered in snow. He saw shadows moving far away, but no soldiers near yet. He wrapped his coat around Leary and the pod again. His daughter wore a thick jacket, her face pale but brave. Ready? He asked. They nodded, though fear trembled in both of them. Evan opened the door slowly, and a blast of freezing wind hit them. Snow swirled around like white dust in a violent storm. The street was empty, but danger felt close. Very close. They stepped out, moving carefully. Evan walked in front, Mira in the middle, Leary behind her. Carrying Sori close to her chest, every breath they took sent cold pain through their lungs. The colony's street lamps glowed faint blue through the spinning snow. Every shadow looked like a soldier waiting to strike. They reached the old marketplace first. Stalls were covered in snow, tarps ripped by the storm. Evan signaled them to stop and listen. A drone buzzed somewhere above. Though faint, they crouched behind a fallen metal sign, holding their breaths. Leary whispered to Myra, "I'm scared." Myra squeezed her hand. "I am too. But my dad won't let anything happen." The buzzing grew louder. "The drone descending," Evan whispered. "Stay low." The drone's blue light swept across the market. Scanning crates and empty stalls, Evan covered the girls with his arms, trying to make their shapes smaller. The blue light passed over them, then moved away. The drone drifted toward another street and vanished into the storm. Evan exhaled. Move. Quickly, they continued through the frozen alleys, stepping over broken crates and thick layers of snow. The farther they walked from the center of the colony, the darker the streets became. Here, abandoned houses stood silent like frozen ghosts. Their windows broken, their roofs covered in sharp icicles. Leary suddenly stumbled, her legs weak from exhaustion and cold. Mira caught her before she fell. "Are you okay?" Mira whispered. "I'm trying, but I'm so tired," Leary said, shaking badly. Evan lifted the heating pod from her arms and carried it himself. "You walk beside Mira," he said gently. "I'll carry Sori now." He held the pod tightly against his chest, protecting it from the snow. The warmth inside radiated faintly. He whispered to the baby, "Hang on, little one. We're almost safe." But just then, the screech of tires ripped through the night. Two black SUVs turned onto the street behind them, headlights slicing through the storm. Mira gasped, "Dad." "They found us." Evan grabbed both girls and pulled them into a narrow alley. The SUVs stopped, doors slammed open. Soldiers shouted orders, their voices sharp and cold. "Search the area," one of them barked. They cannot have gone far. Evan pressed the girls against the wall. Snow fell heavily, masking their footprints. But the soldiers had high-tech scanners. They would detect heat, movement, anything. A soldier's flashlight beam appeared near the alley entrance. Mira's breathing sped up. Leary held her hand tightly, whispering prayers from her home world. Sori whimpered faintly inside the pod. The sound too soft for the soldiers to hear, but loud enough to fill Evan with fear. The flashlight beam moved closer. Closer, too close. One more step, and the soldier would see them hiding in the shadows. Evan made a sudden decision, the kind that could get him killed. He pushed the girls farther into the alley. "Run when I tell you," he whispered. "What about you?" Mira whispered back. Terrified, "I will distract them," he said. "You keep Sori safe." The soldier turned the corner, light sweeping. Evan stepped out of the shadows before the light hit the girls. The soldier shouted, "You, there, stop." Evan raised his hands, pretending to surrender, his voice calm, hiding the terror inside him. "It's just me," he said. "I'm alone, behind him, in the shadows." Mira tightened her grip on Leary. Leary held the heating pod against her heart. They knew Evan was risking everything for them. The soldier stepped toward him. The scanner in his hand beeped, and the snowstorm howled louder than ever, as if the world itself was holding its breath. The soldier's scanner beeped louder as he stepped closer to Evan. Snow whipped around them like sharp white dust, stinging their faces. The storm made it hard to see clearly, but the soldier's visor glowed red, tracking every movement Evan made. "I said stop," the soldier repeated, raising his weapon. Evan lifted his hands higher. "Trying to look harmless, "I'm not running," he said calmly. "I'm just trying to get home." The soldier narrowed his eyes. "This street was empty minutes ago," he muttered. "So why are you here now?" Evan felt fear crawling up his spine, but he kept his voice steady. "Because I work late," he replied. "The storm slowed me down." The soldier glanced at his scanner again, but the storm caused it to glitch. 1 second it showed 1 life signature. The next second, 3. The next second, none. The soldier slapped the side of the scanner in frustration. "Stupid storm," he growled. "I can't get a stable reading." Behind Evan, deep in the alley shadows, Mira held Leary tightly. Leary kept both hands on Sori's heating pod, praying the device would not make any noise. The baby inside was breathing softly, but even a small cry could expose them all. Mira whispered, "Dad will protect us." Leary nodded. But fear trembled through her body. She knew Evan was risking everything, just like her mother once did. Another soldier joined the first one, his boots crunching loudly on the snow. "We don't have time for this," he snapped. "If the children are here, they won't get far." Then he pointed his weapon down the alley, the same alley where the girls were hiding. "Check that way," he ordered. Evan's blood turned cold. He had to act now, or the soldiers would find them. He stepped forward quickly, blocking their path. "Hey," Evan shouted over the wind. "If you're looking for someone, then search the main street, not dark alleys." The soldier spun toward him angrily. "You don't give orders here," he barked. "Step aside." "I'm just saying," Evan replied, raising his voice to keep their attention on him. "If I saw someone running, it was toward the central district." The second soldier froze. "You saw someone," he demanded. Stepping closer, Evan nodded, staying as calm as he could. "Not clearly," he lied. "But I heard footsteps heading north." The soldier exchanged a glance with the first one. "North leads to the old market," he said. "They could be hiding there. We need to check it now." The other soldier agreed, "But we can't leave this man unsupervised." The first soldier grabbed Evan by the arm. "You're coming with us," he said, coldly. "We'll question you at the checkpoint." Evan's heart dropped if they took him away. Mira and the girls would be trapped and helpless in the alley. He had to fight, but he had to do it carefully. One wrong move, and they would shoot him. He looked up at the storm, snow blasting across their faces. Then he made his move. He twisted his arm sharply and shoved the soldier backward, sending him stumbling into the snow. The second soldier shouted, "Stop him." Evan ran deeper into the street, shouting loudly to draw the soldiers away. "Over here," he yelled. "I saw them go this way." The soldiers chased him, their boots pounding in the snow. Their scanners beeped wildly, confused by the running movements and freezing winds. Behind them, Mira listened with wide eyes as Evan's voice faded farther away. Leary whispered, "He is leading them away from us." Mira nodded. Tears forming. "He always protects people," she whispered, "even if it hurts him." But their relief was short-lived. From the other side of the alley, a new drone approached, its searchlight slicing through the snow. The beam shone directly on the girls. Leary gasped and shielded the pod with her body. Mira dragged her deeper into the shadows, but it was too late. The drone beeped sharply. "Heat signatures detected," it announced. Footsteps rushed toward them. 2 more soldiers appeared from the left side of the alley. "Stay where you are," one shouted, raising a weapon. "Don't move." Leary froze, her body shaking. Mira stepped in front of her, spreading her arms to protect both sisters. "You can't take them," Mira shouted, her voice cracking. "You'll hurt the baby." The soldier hesitated only for a second. Then he stepped forward. That was when Leary's markings began to glow, soft at first, then brighter. As if someone lit a flame under her skin, she held Sori tightly, whispering, "I won't let them hurt you. I won't." Her eyes glowed with the same silver light. A sudden pulse of energy burst from her. A wave of shimmering force shot through the alley like a silent explosion. The drone flipped in the air and crashed into a wall. Both soldiers staggered backward, shouting in shock. "What was that?" One yelled, "She has the spark." The other whispered, fear thick in his voice. Mira stared in awe. Leary, Terry, you did that. Leary looked at her own glowing hands with terror and confusion. I didn't mean to, she whispered. It just happened. The spark woke up. The soldiers, now terrified, retreated to call reinforcements. They had seen something that confirmed their worst fear. The baby was not the only one with royal power. Myra grabbed Leary's hand and whispered urgently. We have to move now. The storm howled around them. The soldiers regrouped, and somewhere in the distance, Evan was still fighting for their lives. The night was far from over, and the next moments would decide everything. Snow hammered the streets like falling shards. Mira pulled Leary through the alley as fast as she could. Sori's heating pod glowed softly in Leary's arms, lighting their path with a small, warm light behind them. Soldiers shouted. Drones rebooted, and alarms echoed through the frozen district. Keep running, Mira gasped. Dad will find us. Leary's legs shook with exhaustion, but she held the pod close to her chest. I'm trying. But I can't leave without him, she whispered. We won't, Mira said, her voice trembling. We'll meet him at the shelter. He promised. They reached the end of the alley, but the street beyond was blocked. 3 soldiers stood there, weapons raised, scanning the storm for movement. Mira pulled Leary back, hiding behind a broken wall. Her heart pounded so hard she thought the soldiers might hear it. Leary whispered, They want Sori. Not you. You should run. Mira shook her head fiercely. You're my sisters now, she said. We stay together. A sudden blast of loud shouting came from the opposite direction. Leary peeked around the wall and gasped. Evan was running toward them. Stumbling through the snow, chased by 2 soldiers. His coat was torn, his face scratched, but he kept moving, shouting, Go, Mira. Take them and run. Mira froze, torn between fear and love. But Leary refused. No, she cried. I won't leave him. Evan reached them, grabbing both girls by the arms and pulling them into a hidden gap between 2 crumbling buildings. He was breathing hard, his whole body shaking. They saw Leary spark, he whispered. They know what she can do. They know what Sori is. Before Mira could speak, a soldier's voice echoed. They went this way. Evan pushed the girls deeper into the gap. Listen to me, he said, trying to steady his breath. The shelter is less than half a kilometer north. You'll reach it if you follow the old drainage path. Mira shook her head violently. No, we're not going without you. Evan cupped her face with both hands. Mira, you have to protect them, he said softly. I'll be right behind you. But Leary saw the truth in his eyes. He wasn't planning to run. He was planning to stay and hold the soldiers off, she whispered, voice cracking. You saved us. You saved Sori. Please don't die for us. Evan placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. I'm not dying, he said, with a shaky smile. I'm buying you time. Suddenly the alley lit up with harsh white light. Drones hovered overhead, beams pointed directly at them. Soldiers shouted orders, weapons aiming. Evan stepped out from the hiding place, drawing all attention to himself. Here I am, he shouted. Leave the children alone. The soldiers aimed at him immediately. Where are they? One demanded. Gone. Evan lied. You're too late. One soldier fired a stun blast. Evan dodged, but it grazed his arm, sending a sharp jolt through his body. He stumbled, but he didn't fall. He stood between the soldiers and the children like a living shield. Behind the wall, Myra held Leary tightly. Leary clutched Sori and cried silently. Her markings began to glow again, brighter this time. As if responding to fear and love at once, the soldiers prepared to fire again. Then the ground shook. A deep hum filled the air, growing louder and louder. A massive shadow moved above them. All soldiers froze, stunned by the sudden presence of a huge ship descending from the clouds. Snow swirled violently as the craft landed, its lights bathing the alley in silver and gold. The insignia on the ship was unmistakable, the royal crest of Leary and Sori's tribe. A ramp lowered, tall alien guards emerged, wearing ancient armor glowing with ceremonial light. The lead guard knelt immediately when he saw the baby pod in Leary's arms. "We have found her," he said in awe, "the Sparkborn, the future of our tribe." The soldiers stepped back, trembling. They were outranked beyond measure. Two royal guards approached Evan. "You protected the heirs at great risk," one said. "By the ancient laws, we owe you everything." Evan stared in disbelief. "I just did what anyone should do," he whispered. But Leary shook her head, tears falling. "No," she said. "Only you did." The guards offered Evan and Mira safe passage, wealth, anything they wanted. But Evan pointed at Leary and Sori. "They need a future," he said. "Give them that." "That's all I ask." Leary stepped forward and hugged him, her small arms shaking. "You are family to us," she whispered. "You saved us when no one else cared." Myra hugged them both, crying softly. Sori reached a tiny hand out of the pod, touching Evan's finger. Her glowing spark pulsed gently, as if thanking him. The royal ship lifted into the sky, carrying the sisters to safety. And Evan watched them with a full heart, knowing the truth. A human father had changed the destiny of a species. Because on a freezing night, he chose kindness over fear, and that choice became their miracle.